And so that's where, for today's feature, let's talk about China's national digital currency. Because China is like a lot of other national governments. They're kind of paranoid about the rise of digital currencies. They're paranoid about the rise of cryptocurrencies. So they're scrambling as quick as they can to come up with their own, right? They're recognizing that internet users are buying stuff using digital currencies. They're valuing, like they're believing that Bitcoin is worth as much as it is. They're believing that Ether, the Ethereum currency, is worth what it is, hence the NFTs and buying expensive art. So governments around the world, they're pulling their hair out. They're going, oh my God, it's so crazy. What are we going to do about these cryptocurrencies? That's where China is really trying to get ahead of the game. And China is anticipating how their own digital currency will compete with Bitcoin, will compete with Dogecoin. Big shout out to our friends at Electrical Longboard. Always happy when you join us for our conversations. We were just hypothesizing about an ELB coin, or what an electrical longboard digital currency would be worth. Because, of course, users of ELB recognize that the Spark is a kind of currency that in the ELB attention marketplace you can spend in order to get a raid. But that doesn't mean that national governments aren't watching the way in which these virtual currencies and cryptocurrencies are being used. And that's why we got to pay attention to China. Because China is moving faster and more aggressively than any other national government when it comes to creating a digital currency. Now, the Chinese digital currency has been in development for many months. Here at MetaViews, we've talked about it previously in our newsletter and here on Cyberpunk Now, but they're really getting closer, both in terms of it being tested in the economy and the way in which some of the privacy concerns and some of the security concerns are starting to be raised. So, this is an article from the New York Times, and I'm going to read the first few paragraphs as we tend to do. Annabelle Huang recently won a government lottery to try China's latest economic experiment, a national digital currency. After joining the lottery through the social media app WeChat, Ms. Huang, 28, a business strategist in Shenzhen, received a digital envelope with 200 electronic Chinese yuan, or ECNY, worth around $30. To spend it, she went to a convenience store near her office, picked out some nuts and yogurt, and then she pulled up a QR code for the digital currency from inside her bank app, which the store scanned for payment. The journey of how you pay, it's very similar to that of other Chinese payment apps, Ms. Huang said of the ECNY experience, though she added that it wasn't quite as smooth. China has charged ahead with a bold effort to remake the way that government-backed money works, rolling out its own digital currency with different qualities than cash or digital deposits. The country's central bank, which began testing ECNY last year in 4 cities, recently expanded those trials to bigger cities such as Beijing and Shanghai. Now, there's 2 primary reasons why this is significant. Number one is the ease by which digital currency can be used. And that's why the Chinese government is freaking out. China has a lot of digital messaging or digital messaging apps like WeChat. Tencent owns them. Douyin, which owns TikTok. Also, ByteDance, which has Douyin, which is the Chinese version of TikTok, has also introduced their own virtual currency. So in every social media platform in China, the virtual currencies that, we here in North America only treat as points, they treat as actual things you can buy service and goods on. And they're so easy to use and they're so ubiquitous that it's caused the Chinese government to worry that their surveillance society won't be extensive enough, that people will be able to engage in black markets or underground markets using these digital currencies, and the government won't be able to keep up. So part of this is ease of use, and part of this is the government trying to make it as easy as possible to use their own digital currencies so that people don't use Bitcoin, so they don't use points in WeChat, and they remain part of the traditional economy, which brings us to the second point, which is surveillance. one of the side effects of a cryptocurrency is that every transaction is transparent. That literally everything that happens in the economy can be monitored or tracked or analyzed by other people. Now, if you're the government, you want that data. You want to make sure that you can monitor and track everything that's going on in the economy. And further, if some other entity is tracking that information, if corporations, rather than the government, have access to all of this big data or all of that financial data, then that puts the government at an even greater disadvantage. And so that's why the Chinese government is scrambling as fast as they can to come up with their own digital currency to not only make sure that their currency is not replaced by some cryptocurrency or a digital currency, but also so that the surveillance that they benefit from, that any operator of a cryptocurrency would benefit from, that would then fall within the Chinese government as a whole. And so in order to actually incentivize this activity, the Chinese government is literally giving away millions of digital yuan. So they're just giving away money as an incentive for people to actually spend and use it. And that's where, in this case, they're creating these lotteries, right? That it could, they're saying the digital yuan could increase competition in China's mobile payments market, which is currently being dominated by Ant Group's Alipay and Tencent's WeChat Pay, amongst many others. Now, of course, this is where it's also worth noting that Jack Ma, the founder and CEO of Alibaba, is still missing in action, right? He was basically detained the evening before Blue Ant, which is an Alibaba subsidiary, was going to have their IPO. The IPO was canceled by the Chinese government, and Jack Ma has not really appeared in public since then. So this is not just the Chinese government trying to, ensure that they don't have competing cryptocurrencies or competing digital currencies, but this is a further attempt to try to secure control over the Chinese economy as a whole. Now, I wrote an article for a think tank here in Canada about something called Controllable Anonymity, which is another aspect that the Chinese government is using as part of this digital currency. And controllable anonymity is a kind of digital cash where it allows people to buy things with this digital currency. The vendor or corporation that they're buying from doesn't know who they are, so it's like paying cash, but the government still knows who they are. And so controllable anonymity speaks to one of the applications of digital currency in which the user treats it like cash in that no one knows what they're buying or selling except for the government, where the government kind of has a back door and the government is then able to monitor and follow the types of, transactions or the types of things that people are being able to purchase. So the Chinese digital currency is still in its early days, but the concern here is not just the Chinese government versus cryptocurrency. It's now going to be other governments like the United States, like Canada, like Britain, like the European Union, looking at China, seeing China's digital currency, and then going, wait a minute, what about us? Don't we need a digital currency? If China is the first country to come up with a digital currency and then stipulates that that digital currency has to be used for global trade, given that the rest of the world depends upon goods manufactured in China and raw materials processed in China, then all of a sudden other countries are going to need their own digital currencies to exchange and interact with China's digital currency. So that's a real concern, I think, for other governments, that as they see China's development of this currency move forward, they will face tremendous pressure themselves. Now, in the United States, that's where the issue of Facebook and Facebook's currency becomes relevant. Because, of course, there are a lot of people who would argue that instead of the United States developing their own digital currency, maybe they should just back Facebook's Libra project. Of course, here at MetaViews, we think that that would be tragic. That could literally spell the end of the United States government as we know it. But maybe desperate times call for desperate measures. I mean, who knows? We could see stranger things, but we will be following both the U.S. government, the European Union, and the Canadian government in their own developments of digital currency, because one will expect that they will face tremendous pressure to do so as quickly as possible as the Chinese digital currency starts to gain grounds and develop traction.